this is going to be as quick as possible, but I had to put this in there because we needed some light discussions before we get into the real discussion. So Biden and Psaki have just been failing. Their approval rating of the Biden administration is disastrous. Kamala Harris too, and the Democratic Party as a whole is just, I think most people right now are at the point where they're not supporting either Democrats or Republicans. People are really seeing what is happening now. Biden and Psaki particularly constantly put their foot in their mouth. Now, this is a few weeks, I think it's like a week or so old, but I wanted to play it because going to DC and seeing MLK Jr. be so mentioned by so many people, and a lot of these liberals getting offended that these supposed white supremacists and these supposed like right-wingers dare mention MLK. Well, let's look at what Joe Biden said about Martin Luther King Jr.
But even Dr. King's assassination did not have the worldwide impact that George Floyd's death did.
So I didn't get a chance to talk about this because I was like in Nicaragua. I don't even know where I was at that point. But just being in DC, Pasta, and reminding ourselves that he said this is ridiculous, because every single person, whether they were Islamic or Christian or a Jewish or whatever ideology they espoused on that march that day, mentioned MLK Jr. when they went up to speak. A lot of them, none of them mentioned Donald Trump, but they mentioned MLK Jr. and they mentioned how impactful, how they're standing on the shoulders of these greats. It was at the Lincoln Memorial. And so you had all this happening. And then you have Joe Biden is saying that the death of George Floyd was more impactful, while simultaneously increasing the Pentagon budget, the police budget. It's just, I don't know. It's peak cartoon is what I would say.
Well, it's trying to attempt to keep people in the area where they might have felt most of their support, right? Like a lot of people felt it was like an anti-Trump, anti-conservative, anti-racist movement, right? Like, the stigma where the mainstream media gets to play, especially the establishment the Democratic establishment media, mainstream media, or those independent cucks out there, right? Where they attempt to play that media as the people, the media for the little guy, for the poor, the people of color. That's our network. And Fox and the right wing is more of the, awful. And that's when they got a lot of butts in the streets, because people were really emotional about the George Floyd situation. So trying to amp that up and make it bigger than it really is. And I'm saying, once again, the death of George Floyd was awful. I believe even a lot of people on the right would say it's awful, even despite, George Floyd's history. But trying to kind of compare George Floyd and Martin Luther King, and I don't want to trample on a man's grave. Right. God bless George Floyd's family and what they went through. Horrible. But this is Martin Luther King Jr. And you're trying to say that this death is more impactful to a man who led not only a civil rights movement, but a poor people's campaign movement that was revered and loved by so many people around the globe. Like, come on. I mean, this is peak cartoonish, man.
Right. So it's no surprise that he then went on and did this, which we're going to talk about. I think this is all part of the theater, Pasta. I personally do think this is part of the theatrics that the party is doing. Just kind of like theatrics exist everywhere, right? The progressive movement has their drama theatrics that they hyper focus on when they shouldn't. And then the liberals and the Democrats, they do the same thing. That this whole thing with Congress and politics has become theater, which is why to me it's extremely boring, because it's like, what is the next thing they're going to be talking about? Which is why when I talk about these things, I don't talk about it to just, Joe Biden's an idiot. It's like, why are they doing this?
Yeah. But my question to you, fam, is it's boring. It's theater to us. We recognize it. We see it a mile away. But is it effective with the rest of the world, the mainstream, with the rest of the
absolutely.
Is it effective?
I think it is to a degree, but I think as more and more of people like us start pushing back against against the sort of like theatrics, then it starts getting like a little bit less, like it starts getting old, right? Yeah. And that's what happened with the pandemic and COVID. And I think that's what we're seeing happen with the Democratic Party right now. So let's listen to what he said to a quote unquote journalist.
What do you think President Biden mentioned that? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
So just to refresh everybody's memory, at the end of this photo opportunity, these reporters were shouting questions, hoping that Joe Biden would answer one of them. And Medhurst is a Fox journalist. And he said, do you think inflation is a political liability? And in the midterms, and Biden responded with, it's a great asset, more inflation, like sarcastically, right? And he called him a stupid son of a bitch. Now, the thing I want to point out here isn't that Joe Biden is some sort of like, it's not that he's just dumb or whatever. It's the fact that people have been, we've been talking about this for a long time, and about how Joe Biden is essentially Donald Trump, but he's just like the prettier face of imperialism. But at the same time, you can look back and see that Joe Biden is really no different. When Donald Trump did something like this, right, people completely they freaked out. They were like, Trump is so, like, he's so impolite, he's so rude, he's just nasty. And then like the media, of course, went on and on and on about how awful Trump was, including the progressive, TYTs of the world. But when Joe Biden does it, it's largely silent on the mainstream media, or they sort of okay it, right? Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Yes, I do, because really, to tell you the truth, I believe it's theatrics too as well, fam. I remember this episode. I used to watch a lot of West Wing back in the days when I was really naive to the neoliberal establishment. But there was an episode where one of the advisors, I'm getting an echo. Hello?
Hi.
Okay. I think it's better. It's better. One of the episodes of the West Wing where one of the president's advisors, I believe it was Toby Maguire, I believe it wasn't Toby Maguire, Toby something. He had the president doing these speeches and whatnot, and then he started continuing when they went off the air, right? Boom. They went to a commercial for one of the episodes. The president kept talking to the person that was, interviewing him, and made some crass comments about his opponent. And all of a sudden, it was like, you were still talking and they were still recording. They got that. What did you do? And now they put this recording out that was supposed to be like off camera, not a actual interview on the show, like leaked footage, right? And it made the other guy look stupid, and they did it on purpose. That was the whole thing they showed. This is the second time we've had a situation like this with Joe Biden. One that was kind of live when he lost his marbles. Remember, was it the G7 or the G6 or the G whatever it is, whatever number it is? I don't even know nowadays, right? The summit. When somebody was saying something and he turned around and started going and yelling at the person, not at the podium. You don't know what you're talking about, right? What are you talking about? And now over here, he's like, you stupid son of a bitch. It's a tactic to try to make him look strong, coherent, to know what's going on. That's what this is. This is theater. So I'm buying it. It does work. You know what I'm saying? But this is the second time they've attempted to pull this malarkey.
Right. So when Trump does it, he's rude. But when Biden does it, oh, he's strong.
He's strong.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Like, and if you go to the comments on like whatever link of this video is at, and you watch all the liberals comment about how like, oh my God, I love Biden. He's so great. Wow. I love him even more now. This is what they do. And these people are very good at manufacturing this sort of like outrage porn that a lot of media has turned into. And the progressives are no better at that issue. They love the drama outrage. Ooh, like, look at this guy. He totally killed this guy on this debate. Oh man, oh my God. Now we're going to talk about it for a fucking week. but it works. It works,
Yeah, it does.
and they know this. And
Because
so
I was going to say, because the prevailing narrative, fam, is that Republicans are too strong and too tough when it comes to foreign policy, so they need to calm down. And the Democrats, we got to be careful when we elect them, any independent leading right person, because they're very weak. So when they act tough, it's like, okay, they're exceeding their expectations over here. You know what I'm saying? That's why
Right,
it's
and it was
a false narrative.
and it was against a Fox News reporter. So they're playing that culture war left right thing, right?
Yeah.
They're playing that whole like it's a Republican and look, and Trump was he was dumb and blah blah blah. But it's the same thing. You're essentially elevating two egos at the same time, and you're not even realizing that you're just playing for whatever team is there. Yeah. And so I just want to read real quick. Brian Stelter, CNN journalist. He said in 2018, calling a journalist a son of a bitch, it was wrong when Trump was just a candidate. It's even worse now that he's POTUS. So this was about, when Trump did it, essentially. And obviously that's hypocritical, right? So then Doocy goes on and he goes on Sean Hannity, and he basically tells him that Joe Biden called him right after and said, it's nothing personal, pal. And they went back and forth and we're talking about moving forward. And that, he was like, oh, I have to ask something different. And he's like, well, the president said that I have to, so I'm going to keep doing it. So it's like this whole thing when, just bullshit. Like, he's like, yeah, Biden cleared the air. We had a nice call. Yeah. And Hannity was like, that doesn't sound like an apology. And Doocy said, it's nothing personal. And I told him I appreciate him reaching out. And he also said, hey, Sean, the world is on the brink of like World War III right now with all this stuff going on. I appreciate that the president took a couple minutes out of his evening while he was still at his desk to give me a call and clear the air. Yeah. And he said, I don't need anybody to apologize to me. He can call me whatever he wants as long as it gets him talking. I think that's enough. That's enough. So we can move on. We can now move forward. There will be 3 to 7 years of opportunities to ask him about different stuff. So you can see that the media plays right into this thing like, Joe Biden said this, and look, I'm going to play nice with Joe Biden so I can continue being those, Fox News White House correspondent. And so we can have this playful back and forth. I'm, a Fox News correspondent. I'm a conservative. I'm going to push at Joe Biden and the Democrats, but it's fucking fodder. We all know it's fake. We all know it's theatrics. So it's ridiculous. It's just crazy how people, this is all progressive media is going to talk about for a fucking week. Joe Biden, he's such an idiot. You don't even realize that's exactly what you're playing into.
Fam, it's not fodder, okay? Joe Biden took time out of his milk and cookie break to call up this gentleman and work things out. And fam, you're right. It's just a complete distraction because, once again, this is effective. We said, is it effective? All this malarkey, it's effective because people are paying attention to this stuff. I can't believe there's actually articles on this and tweets on this and people are talking about this. They're paying attention to this crap because that's what Americans pay attention to, instead of what's really going on in Ukraine, in Russia, in Yemen, in foreign policy. Instead of looking into the deep dives of all the money lines of the boop boop and everything else, they pay attention to this because we have people who are watching just reality television or their TV shows. And if they're into politics, half of them are paying attention to this, what we used to call in the service scuttlebutt. BS.
Whatever gets some clicks.
It's
right. Because the boring stuff, the Yemen stuff, everybody should be covering Yemen right now. Everybody. And I have seen like us and maybe 2 other people, if that, cover it. That's it. That's it. And it's like, what the fuck is more important? If you're going to say independent media, they're so much better. No, you're not. You're not better because you're still covering the same fucking shit that you shouldn't be covering. You should be covering actual things. If you're going to consider yourself somebody that has the ability to have an opinion on politics, then please focus on the things that fucking matter because the world is falling apart. And I know people need, every now and then you need some sort of fucking entertainment, but it's becoming like that's all it is. Right. And so I'm definitely calling it out because I'm fucking sick of it. The whole morning, oh my God, the debate. Oh my God, the debate. I don't give 2 shits about a debate that's not going to push anything forward. It just doesn't. Same shit.
It's a distraction.
So here's Jen Psaki, right? And I had to put her in there because this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. Distract yourself a little further. This is what she says about how people should deal with everything that's happening. And I get it, dude. I get everybody's stressed. Everybody's going through shit. But like, this is what they use against you.
So my advice to everyone out there who's frustrated, sad, angry, pissed off, feel those emotions, go to a kickboxing class, have a margarita, do whatever you need to do this weekend, and then wake up on Monday morning, we got to keep fighting. And what that means, Lindsay, is we have to keep talking to members about federal legislation. That's essential. That's something that can be permanent, that can make sure people's rights are protected. But we also need to make sure people are educated in states across the country about what their rights are, how they can vote, when they can vote, how to request an absentee ballot. There's a lot we need to do on that front, and that's going to rely on the energy and the anger of that activism as well.
Do your job, fam. Get out there, vote, but ask for an absentee because it's a lazy thing to do.
You caught that.
Of course I caught that one. That one ain't slipping by. Fam, I'm just going to hand this to you because this is what, Dan Rather said it in an interview, I think, with Sean Hannity. He said that the news used to be boring and objective. And now you guys and Fox and CNN and MSNBC, all you guys now have turned it into subjective and exciting. And that's what's going on. It's part of the distraction. Have a margarita,
and
fam.
It can be exciting. It can be exciting and still be objective and still be about things that matter. It's just like you have to deprogram yourself from what you've been conditioned to get excited about. Because a lot of that comes from the ego, like the ego need to be like, ooh, like, oh, what's going on here? And it's like, we have to deprogram ourselves. We have to elevate ourselves to a different level of thinking.
Yeah.
And so her whole thing is like, I know we failed you, and I know this government and everything is shit, but just distract yourself with a margarita. And hey, I fucking love margaritas, right, Jen? I do. But like, that doesn't mean that you don't have to do your fucking job. Do your job. Like, and they're not taking any accountability for anything whatsoever. Notice the things that she's not talking about, like really what's going on in Ukraine. You said that, right? But in this video, what they paint as is going on in Ukraine. And Pasta, I got so pissed off because I've seen so many people on the left say, well, I don't care if Russia invades Ukraine. That's not happening. Russia isn't invading Ukraine. Please stop getting your news from people who do not tell you the intricacies of what's really happening, because that's not what's happening at all. Like, NATO was not supposed to expand. According to their word, they gave their word that they weren't going to expand past a certain region anymore. A long time ago. Obviously, you don't take NATO for their word. They broke their word, and that's what they've been doing ever since. They've had 10,000 troops there in Ukraine. We backed neo-Nazis in Ukraine, and we're doing it again. Why is nobody talking about that? Why aren't the progressives who call everybody who disagrees with them a white supremacist, red, brown Nazi and are hyper-focused on making sure that everybody to the right of Bernie Sanders is a Nazi, but literally crickets on this? And if not crickets, they're like, well, we have to support Ukraine just because you're not a real Marxist-Leninist if you support the current Putin, because he's not a Marxist-Leninist. So it's just the fucking ridiculousness that I've seen from the so-called left is insane to me. They're regurgitating CIA talking points and putting out things like, well, we shouldn't, Ukraine, we can help Ukraine. Marianne Williamson, we can help Ukraine, but we don't have to push imperialism. It's like, what do you mean help you? Ukraine is business. It's not your business.
Yeah, it's not. And everybody out there, go get Mark Sloboda on your show if you can. Yeah. Get the people, and this guy's been talking about Ukraine. He talked about Ukraine back in 2014. I followed him and Kevin Zeese, and they were masterful at this. And God bless Kevin Zeese up there in the spirit in the sky. But Mark Sloboda is still around, and he does an amazing job. Go watch shows like the Duran. They tell you the intricacies of what's going on. You know what I'm saying? You have to follow the right people on it. And it's so mind-boggling that the same people who were behind the coup in 2014, which destroyed this country, okay, sent them to be one of the most poorest countries around, caused the civil war between Eastern Ukraine and Western Ukraine. These people that caused all this are now the ones who are turning around. They are back in power, and they are telling you we got to watch out for Putin. And these latte liberals, these cappuccino communists, they're just ridiculous, okay? I think Caleb calls our friend Jabba the Vosh, right? The cappuccino communist is what I call him, Jabba the Vosh. I mean, these people are ridiculous. They do not know what's going on. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we need to wake up, because really, to tell you the truth, I know we're going to come to the end of this section, but this is something, as we get through the show, might be the next big distraction. And that is a bullshit propagated one-side narrative war with the Ukraine, with Russia, proxy through the Ukraine. And it could be very, very dangerous. And they will create the element which will take all the eyes, the ears, all over to that spot. And it really is disgusting, because people just don't know the facts about Ukraine, and they need to learn the facts about Ukraine.
Yeah. So we have the video, right?
Of Nancy?
Oh, you don't have it? Okay, don't worry about it. She was just saying something about Ukraine. It's on slide 13. It's not a big deal.
Let's go to slide 13. Let's do it. Let's do it.
If you can. Yeah, you can just play it. Thank you.
Our democracy is at risk because of assaults on the truth, the assault on the U.S. Capitol, and the state-by-state assault on voting rights. This election is crucial. Nothing less is at stake than our democracy. But as we say, we don't agonize, we organize. And that is why I am running for re-election to Congress and respectfully seek your support.
Okay, so that's Nancy Pelosi announcing her re-election run for Congress in 2022. She had already said that she wasn't going to run before, but she changed her mind. She's been in power since 1987. So, and she says that U.S. democracy is at risk. What democracy, Nancy? Okay, so just so you guys know, her constituency, her congressional district is full of a lot of neoliberals. It is some of the worst people you can encounter, the most elitist, the most arrogant, the most, the awful on the pandemic, like the Karens and the Kens that we talk about. It's such a hard district to get control of because of that, right? But Shahid Buttar has tried. A lot of people have tried and failed. Obviously, we don't have fair elections in this country, but California is one of the most corrupt places when it comes to elections. I mean, they do not let go of their hold on the way the system is done. So all these progressives are talking about Jakeem Jeffries replacing her and all of this stuff, and it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The only way we get rid of her is if she steps down. And trust me, if she does, it's for a reason. So I just wanted to note, like, the cartoonish nature of Nancy Pelosi still running for fucking office. And as you know, I'm at the point where I don't care, because these people are selected, they're not elected. Yeah. But just watch for the progressives to hyper focus on fighting Nancy Pelosi now, when their beloved squad hasn't done fucking shit to oppose her. Just saying. Okay.
Fam, as you were saying that too, a lot of people are going after Pelosi in the chat. I was waiting to see, and I haven't checked the YouTube chat. I was just looking at the Rokfin chat about opinions about Shahid Buttar that you mentioned, whatnot, right? Like Shahid, like him a lot personally. However, his campaign, I don't agree with it. And you know what I'm saying? I'm sure we'll have a conversation off camera about what the future lies. Because today's announcement means a lot, right? I mean, Nancy Pelosi will never debate her challenger. She hasn't debated a deputy in 20-something years, whatnot. And that's something that, it took a lot for Tim Canova to bait Debbie Wasserman Schultz out, to force her to one debate, which she got with the floor wiped on. But we'll say we'll reserve those talks for later about what's going to happen in the future and how that race might look, because it is important. We want to kick the speaker out of there, but she's talking about voting rights acts, which is a big distraction from the actual voting system right now. And any Democrat or leftist, whatever, is running in the Democratic Party and they don't want to talk about the election process, then they're bunk. They're full of it. They're afraid to because they're just capitulating to the Democratic Party. If they're going to capitulate right there on a free, fair, transparent election, then they're going to capitulate to the party at the end of the day. And I'm saying it now. So if you're not willing to step up and speak about it, I don't want to hear from you. And there are many other things we can talk about too as well when it comes to cancel culture, when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to civil liberties. There's a lot of things because I'm not going to stand behind some bourgeois, synthetic leftist progressive run inside the Democratic Party when you think you're naive that you're going to win with those tactics. It's not going to happen. So either step up or shut up. That's my message to that whole situation.
Put up or shut up is what you said last time.
He had a fired up fee. Now he got a fired up pasta. So